The gaming journalism press has to be some of the worst and most disingenuous people I've ever had the displeasure of dealing with in my time on YouTube. It's a big reason why I even started my channel, because the narratives that these people spew is nothing short of flat out lies at the best of times. This brings me unfortunately to the can of worms known as Ghost of Yotei again, a game I will still refuse to play because the lead actor supports Antifa. I just can't bring myself to embody someone in a game who supports something like that. Look, I don't hate Sucker Punch or anything. I don't want you to boycott them. I just personally can't play their latest game. Won't mean I won't play stuff in the future, but this one, I just can't do it. But that being said, the other real reason why I opted out originally was because of another developer that used to work there named Drew Harrison. And also, don't harass anyone in this video because that's what they would want you to do, okay? Just be better than that, and let's just discuss and look at what they're doing through an objective lens. But this Drew Harrison person is mad because they made jokes about Charlie Kirk passing away, and then what's caused me to be here in the first place talking about this is now that one website has decided to push the narrative that we are the monsters here and not these people who celebrated death so openly. This comes from Aftermath. 2 months after firing over Charlie Kirk comments, Ghost of Yotei developer blames harassment campaign, not bad joke. I'm not even going to say who wrote this article because I know they'll want the attention, but all I will say is that the writer of this article also claimed that I personally didn't get access to free games for review, even when I posted proof on social media that I did, and then they acted like they had no idea what that situation was even about in the first place when they got proven wrong. So like I said, from the get-go, this entire article is already disingenuous pretty much, and it was only posted by Aftermath because they want to delegitimize content creators because they are resonating with the audiences that these types of websites have tried to weaponize themselves. As they start the article out here, as you can see, this writer confirms that over 600 people have lost their jobs in the games industry for celebrating Charlie's passing, and I say good. I don't want anyone of any side celebrating when anyone that they don't like passes away. I think if a left-wing commentator was taken out and some right-wing developer celebrated it, the same thing should happen to them. How they start this article already proves that these people are already just acting in bad faith, as if we're supposed to feel bad for these developers, who again, they celebrated the passing of people they don't like politically, which is just nuts. Like the fact they even say, as seen here, near the end there that I highlighted, that it was censorship that happened to these developers. You mean the same censorship that these types were fine with on places like Twitter in the past and YouTube when the people they didn't like were being censored for things they said as well. Like these people are being freaks, man. Actual evil individuals. I feel disgusting even being remotely close to what they speak about. It's why you've likely seen on my channel this year that I've tried to stay away from stuff like this. Not mostly, I know, I talk about it from time to time, sure. But honestly, I'm making a conscious effort to try to avoid these things these days because it's just negative energy, man. But sadly, I have to speak on it here because these people just won't stop. They want to ruin the public images of people like myself or people that are far bigger than me like Asmongold due to this. It's just wrong, man. They're so full of hate. It's getting sickening. It doesn't belong in the industry. They're mad that they lost the war so resoundingly that they're now going for the lowest hanging fruit they can to cling to relevancy. Like, it's just sad. But here's the blue sky tweet they sent that got this Drew person fired in the first place. They celebrated the person who shot Charlie, alluding that Luigi, as in the guy who shot the healthcare CEO guy, has his back. What's even more stupid is that Aftermath then writes, as seen here, that after Drew Harrison posted that tweet, for the next 12 hours apparently, they got messages like, say goodbye to your career, and as I highlighted, I hope the same happens to you, which is rich of Aftermath to say it was wrong of that person to say to this Drew person in the first place. Considering that this entire article is Aftermath justifying and trying to paint Drew as a victim for literally celebrating a man who has young children passing away after being taken out like this. You can't be serious. You can't have the high ground here. So it's wrong for some users to attack Drew, but it's okay for Drew to make jokes of real human beings passing away because she disagreed with them politically. This is why, if you ask me, why the Western industry is falling apart at the seams. Why do you think places like China and Saudi Arabia are able to buy up whole companies these days, right? Because it's people like this that are making these companies companies weaker on purpose. Like, think about it. Is it any coincidence that before politics even mattered so much in gaming to these types, that the Western industry 10 to 15 years ago was objectively far stronger and better off when it wasn't filled to the brim with people that were voicing their opinions like this so openly and hateful? I think we can objectively say that the Western industry has fallen apart at the seams for the most part because developers like this have self-sabotaged the studios that they worked at in, I guess, because they want to push their political views. Sure, Yote sold 3 million, which is decent, but it would have been better had this never happened in the first place, and that's just a fact. Now that we have developers that are just celebrating death openly, or studios pushing concepts into their games that users just do not want, look at Rocksteady, Insomniac, places like Heart Machine even, and these ideas and their ideologies are ruining these games. And with every game made with this new Western mindset, Sucker Punch included, because again, they have a literal Antifa supporter as their main character, this is just weakening these studios and their power. Again, is it any coincidence that around the same time that Western studios and companies began embracing progressive nonsense, that at the same time foreign nations have come in and started buying up these companies for way less than they were originally valued at? Like, this has to be by design. I'm halfway convinced that places like China and groups that benefit from this destabilizing metrics maybe even sent the concept of wokeness, if you will, deliberately into the Western mindset on purpose to ruin the stability of the actual nations that will embody that mindset. Because it's much easier to control and buy the foundations of your biggest rivals if they weaken their own castle gates and walls by their own hands and not yours. It's an almost genius concept pushed by things like TikTok and more, brainwashing millions of people into mindless drones who will just believe anything they're told as long as the person saying it has a high enough follower count. Because like I said, none of this nonsense existed 10 or 15 years ago. It is a new thing, and it's almost certainly ruined the very fabric of Western games entirely. It damaged Insomniac, it definitely damaged Naughty Dog, and now look at Sucker Punch. An enemy that is divided and ruined by their own volition is a lot easier to defeat than an enemy that is united. And I know I may sound like a conspiracy theorist here to some degree, but is it any wonder that places outside of the West have all unanimously pretty much practically banned the very social practices and ideologies that seem to run rampant in the West specifically on purpose? Because they know that such ideas will have terrible effects on their futures and ruin their nation's futures, yet here in the West countries, these ideas, they are not only celebrated, but people are getting hired to think that it's totally okay now to attack people they disagree with politically like this, and that they're victims if they face any consequences. These same decisions that will lead to hemorrhaging money, goodwill, and future prospects, and then what happens? Those foreign nations will come in like they have and then just buy them out. EA literally got bought by Saudi Arabians, or Ubisoft even being practically owned by Tencent. That is not by accident. Two huge companies that before were pretty much bulletproof, then they embodied this ideology nonsense, and then just boom, they suddenly got bought out by people who would never be able to touch them in any reasonable way like 10 years ago even. And yet we still have developers like this all over the Western industry, believing that it's their moral duty or something to, instead of making fun video games, they want to push for political violence and then some instead. And then you wonder why players are mostly buying games from the East over the West these days. Like, it's insane, dude. Insane how these people, they can't seem to see that they're being played, and yet they double down anyways. And yet this Drew Harrison said this to Aftermath, and it just shows how tone deaf and oblivious these types of developers really are. She said this: "I just thought I'm their entertainment for the day. I assumed it was going to go how it always has. Nobody cares about what they say because they literally only harass for the fun of it. There's no moral code they're trying to uphold. There's no cause they're rallying for. They are just trying to make people suffer." You see what I mean? She literally proved me right with what I just said. These people have zero accountability. How crystal clear do I need to make this for you people to understand, okay? Players do not care about your personal politics on either side. We understand that games are made by people of all kinds, obviously. We don't care if a woman works on a game. We don't care if someone who is this skin color or that is in a game. All we care about is good writing, good gameplay, and a product that doesn't antagonize us or belittle us for existing in the first place. For God's sakes, okay? Go look at Dispatch, for example. That game is diverse like crazy. It has white, black, brown, Asian, all kinds of people in it. It has straight people, it has gay people, you name it, it's in the game. Yet where's the outrage? Why aren't the online grifters, as these people put it, attacking that game then? Could it be that nobody has a real problem with any of these things as long as it's written well, and that's key, and doesn't bludgeon you over the head and call you names in the product itself? Again, one of my favorite series is Mass Effect, a franchise that is crazy diverse, yet apparently I'm a bigot to these people. No, I can just see what you're trying to do with these games, and I'm not going to support it or let you get away with it. It's why it's tiring to play most Western stuff these days, because you have to check to ensure it's not being made by literal crazy people who are instead masking a lecture behind a price point. I know when I buy a JRPG made by Japanese people, I'm likely going to get a fun game that is escapism most of the time, sometimes not really. But even then, when I buy a Western game maybe, especially a Sony first-party studio game in the last few years, 9 times out of 10, these games are just a humiliation ritual that I also have to pay for to suffer through. Like again, every single Sony first-party exclusive for the PS5 is sold less than their PS4 counterparts. That cannot be disputed. That's literal fact. God of War, Spider-Man, Last of Us, Horizon, it just is what it is, man. Go look up the numbers. They all sold less than their PS4 counterparts. And yet they'll look at that and go, oh, we're not the problem, it's the players instead. Like, it's unreal, dude. This is why I have to unfortunately make this video, despite honestly not really wanting to do that even in the first place. Like I said, I just feel gross even talking about these people, but my God, they are just lying. They're so confident in not telling you the truth. They just want to push their agenda, and it's just sickening me. As seen here then, Drew apparently made banana muffins as a sorry to Sucker Punch staff for drawing the ire of the internet. Like, yeah, that'll help, all right, great. And apparently colleagues reached out concerned for her safety. Nobody was going to harm this Drew lady in person, because unlike what these people like to think, the reality is that gamers are not violent people. They are just sick of activists trying to ruin their favorite hobby. This then led to harassment apparently at Sucker Punch, and developers had to unplug their studio phones because they were getting swarmed with calls from consumers. Of course, they will also label this as harassment, but it really isn't. You're game developers. You're making a product, a public thing that is backed by a public multi-billion-dollar company in Sony. You are making something meant to be bought by people with money. They have every right as customers to want to speak to the manager and so to speak. Like, we all know that if hypothetically, let's say that a left-wing content creator was taken out like Kirk was, okay? And then some YouTuber made a video celebrating that left-wing content creator being taken out and passing away was a good thing. These very same people that are protecting Drew would flood YouTube with emails and complaints on social media saying that this YouTuber should be deplatformed for celebrating the death of someone they don't agree with, and we know this. There's no point in denying it. It's only a problem now because the shoe is on the other foot, and I'm sick of it. Again, this is why I just didn't buy Yote. I feel physical disgust when I even see the game in motion, to be honest with you guys. You know when you see something that just feels tainted to you in a way, like it reminds you of something that you just don't like you just can't see it for anything than what it is to you? That's how I feel with Yote. I'm just disgusted by the whole thing and the situation surrounding it. It's why I washed my hands and walked away. It's a big reason why I vowed to never buy the game. I'm not saying Sucker Punch is bad and I never want to play their future games, but this game in particular, I don't want to play. I can't stomach myself playing something knowing that people like this or the lead actor just worked on it, okay? I just can't. There comes a time when there's too much negativity with something, and that's why I walked away from Yote myself, okay? I can't justify supporting it. If other people did, that's fine. That's their choice. As I said in previous videos, I never thought the game would flop either way, but I doubt it has the legs of Tsushima in the long run either way too. Like I said, I just wanted to wash my hands of the game entirely. But look how tone deaf this is, man. At one point, a human resources person apparently then told Drew they asked if they were getting death threats and that they were here for them. You see what I mean? They see no issue with their developers celebrating death, only the backlash after it. The backlash is still not good. I don't condone it. I've said multiple times on my channel already that you should never harass or send death threats to anybody. But this Drew lady is playing the victim here though. And again, I am so sick of this double standard. Just don't say anything to begin with. That's always the best option. If you represent a company, your words will damage that company. Just don't do it, okay? We need less of this, not more. As Aftermath posted next, Sony's higher-ups worked to fix the situation, and within hours of that statement, Drew was then fired from Sucker Punch. And it was the right thing to do. It was. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If Drew was kept at Sucker Punch and Yote came out anyways, I do think the game would have flopped or at least sold even less than it did. I think removing her was actually a big reason why Sucker Punch was even able to turn the ship around just in time and at least maybe break even. And I do applaud Sucker Punch for doing what they did there because it was the right move. I don't care who you are, what side you are politically, you can't be allowed to celebrate things like this. I don't want a right-wing developer celebrating leftist death or vice versa, okay? All of it, in my opinion, it all needs to go. All this hatred, vitriol, and so-called jokes, which are not jokes, they are celebrations, need to be rooted out on all sides. I said this before about games like Helldivers even, I don't want leftist or right ideology or designs in that game either. I don't want any of this real-world nonsense from any side of any angle in any of these games, full stop. These products are meant to be escapism, yet these sorts of people work tirelessly to ensure that these games are anything but the escapism they're meant to be. And this is why all of it, regardless of your politics, it needs to be ripped out at the roots. And if you think any of this deserves to be in games, I just can't agree with it. Because Sucker Punch has made plenty of games before this that didn't antagonize their audiences. They've made games where you can play like a literal supervillain in, say, Infamous. Yet even then, when you're like a literal evil person villain in a game, they still didn't antagonize their players with their politics or anything. Like, this sort of rhetoric just needs to be gone from any and all studios of like any kind, okay? These activists, like Aftermath said, that there were 600 people that lost their jobs due to the Charlie Kirk situation alone, and I can't feel sympathy for any of them because they were objectively evil in their minds, believing that they should have the right to spit on the graves of those they disagree with and celebrate that a man has passed away. Like, none of that hate is in good faith. It's exhausting, it's moronic, and it's evil. And Sucker Punch did the right thing. And Aftermath just proves that they refuse to see eye to eye with players, but instead hold themselves as political highborns or something over others when they are just as gross as the developers who advocated for this sort of thing to be normalized in the first place. The studio head of Sucker Punch, Brian Fleming, also spoke to GameFile. That's another disingenuous website that recently also admitted like Halo devs from their own report when the White House uses Halo memes, by the way, like Marty O'Donnell, who was the composer of Halo, because he was conservative. So I don't really find GameFile to also be another trusted source of neutrality in any given situation. Either way, Brian Fleming, the studio head of Sucker Punch, was interviewed by Stephen Totilo as seen here at GameFile. That's the same Stephen Totilo that I just said omitted Marty O'Donnell's voice from his own Halo article, and before people say that I'm lying, okay, here's Marty O'Donnell himself saying, as you can see here, that Stephen literally omitted Marty from the article. Like, Marty called out Stephen, the same guy who did the Sucker Punch interview, by the way, for deliberately omitting the opinions and voices of specifically conservative developers because their opinions didn't align with like his article's direction, whatever. Like I keep telling you guys, I don't even have to call these people liars because the evidence just tells you everything that you need. This same Stephen Totilo, like I said, spoke to Brian Fleming at Sucker Punch and asked him why they fired this Drew lady who was going to tank their studio. And then Brian would say this: I think we're aligned as a studio that celebrating or making light of someone's murder is a deal breaker for us, and we condemn that kind of in a no uncertain terms, and good on Brian Fleming for saying that. Obviously, Stephen Totilo, being who he is, wanted his gotcha, but Brian just wouldn't budge. That's all he would say, and they moved on, as it should be. These people just wanted their ammunition to keep firing, but Brian just wouldn't give it to them. I mean, he still allowed an Antifa supporter to be the literal face and voice of his game, so I'm not entirely convinced either way, but progress is progress. But again, they prove how this is nothing but a means for these types to paint themselves as victims. Aftermath then brings up Asmongold and Grums, who is seen here, amassed a list of developers who publicly celebrated the passing of Charlie Kirk. Look again, this would be different if this list was just random people being chosen because they wanted to harass them for no reason. But again, these people specifically celebrated a man passing away because they didn't agree with him politically. The nuance of the situation is being lost in how they are portraying this because they want sympathy points instead. They then bring up Asmongold, who said this: they got fired from their job, too bad, huh? Wow, what a shame for you. Eventually you'll get a new job, and when you do, I might just make another video and contact that employer too. Now, why would I do that? For fun. I enjoy it. I like it. It's a nice pastime. Look, they can hit on Asmongold for this, but what he said isn't technically wrong either. These people are advocating for death and wanting to get away with it, okay? That's what happened here. Why are these journalists trying to spin this into a victimhood story? It isn't that at all. Drew Harrison even admits in this part of the article that Sony fired her because she violated their social media rules, which is, yes, a fireable offense. Your words will have consequences, especially when you represent a billion-dollar company. Drew then fully admits further where she says this: full disclosure, the joke was not in the best taste, Harrison, who had never been formally reprimanded during her tenure, said. But at no point did anyone ask me to delete it, and no point did anyone ask me to apologize, and for the record, I would have. I would have worked with PR to write an apology. It feels like nobody investigated the harassment me and my coworkers were receiving. Well, that's not true. For a while, you had your literal account on Blue Sky said, I'm going to punch Yahtzees till I die, and that you wouldn't like apologize for anything. So you're just saying this now to save, again, you're just saying to save face, dude. Like, all of this is just lies. It's all just blatant lies. This is why this video has to exist. And this is not Sony's fault either. This falls squarely on this developer's shoulders. It's not Sony's problem to back you up when you just decide you want to spew hatred online and think you can get away with it. Like, it's insane how Aftermath is defending this. But look how far they're unwilling to take the blame for their own actions. Drew then said this: if we as an industry got better about realizing when harassment is happening and standing up as a block, maybe this wouldn't stop harassment, but there would be much more hesitation to do it. No, this is not the take or win that you think it is. All this proves is that you have learned nothing. No one is legally meant to protect you when you spew hatred like this. It is not morally right to do so, and Sony doesn't win anything in the end by protecting you like this. It would be different if, say, this Drew person just posted like the cover of Yote and said, excited for you to play it, I worked on the game. And then the comments were just coming in like, you should end yourself, or something like that. And then in this hypothetical scenario, Drew also never celebrated Charlie passing away. It was just them saying, hey, I worked on this game, I hope you check it out, and it's like totally neutral. Then yes, that would be harassment, because you just posting normally about something something that's nothing to do with anything doesn't mean you should be harassed. But how dare this Drew person try to paint herself as the victim in this scenario? And how dare Aftermath try to spin this story in a way to make it seem like that she's the victim? You people celebrated an innocent man passing away. That cannot be understated or swept under the rug. You did it to yourselves. This is not harassment. This is the logical conclusion to your bigoted and hatred beliefs just coming full circle for you. It's why this video has to exist. I never condone the harassing of anyone. I always tell you guys not to do that when I bring up developers or anyone else, and you know this if you frequent this channel. But you cannot look at what's happened here and think that in any way that Drew is a victim. You celebrated death. You paid the price with your job. You are not a victim. The only actual victim is Charlie's family, who now have to live without a father and a son, and the fact that Aftermath never once brings this up, nor does Drew ever apologize to Charlie's family publicly, that tells you everything, that they are not sorry for what they did. These people are enjoying trying to paint the gaming community as this vile hatred group of incels and chuds because that favors their narrative, when in actuality the hateful rhetoric of all of this is just from the people who are making these games and the people that report on it, like these journalists. This article is disgusting. Aftermath should be ashamed for even okaying this and allowing it to be published the way it is, because it is a gross misrepresentation of a situation that would have never have existed if Western game studios didn't train their employees to not be hateful bigots like this so openly. I feel zero sympathy for what happened, because this is the logical conclusion to something like this. Nobody should celebrate death, and nobody should be allowed to also get away with it regardless of whatever political side that you're on. You will never see me dancing on the graves of others like Drew did here, okay? Because as much as they like to think that I'm somehow evil, I exist here on YouTube because people like this think that they can get away with this stuff. No, let this video exist to tell everyone that these are deeply unserious and twisted people who just want you to see them as victims by enabling their bad behavior. I think the cherry on top of all of this is that on Blue Sky, none other than Zoe Quinn, the girl who basically started Gamergate herself, replied to Drew where she said this. I had to censor some words because Zoe Quinn likes to swear a lot and it's YouTube, but basically she says that the games industry is wrong for firing her. Right, Zoe Quinn, the same woman who accused Alec Holoka of SA with no proof, then ostracized him from the industry that he worked in, and that led to that man having no one to support him, and then he took his own life because Zoe wanted to make an example out of him. These are birds of the same feathers. These are horrible people I would never want anything to do with on any level of my life ever. I'm not saying attack them or harass them. No. You all have to be better than that, okay? Just look at them as examples so that you know how to conduct yourself, not just online, but in real life too. And just know that whoever you are in the world, at least you're not Zoe Quinn or this Drew person that's trying to start a pity party for, again, advocating political violence, because that's what it is. Every day, I think the game industry might be recovering somewhat, and it is in ways, but by God, will it never fully heal until stuff like this is just removed forever. Aftermath should be ashamed of this article, and now more people will know how they twist the truth to benefit their narratives. This is disgusting behavior, horrible gaslighting, and incredible how tone deaf this whole thing reads. So please, just be better people, everyone. And know that if you ever have an article written like this about you that tries to protect you, the likelihood is whatever you did was probably heinously wrong either way. I am just so sick of this, man. But what do you think? Thank you for watching. Subscribe. See you next time. And I hope to God I never have to make a video about Ghost of Yote ever again, because I am sick of this situation, dude. Okay, see you next time.